All right, good afternoon to the residents of Newcastle County and those who have gathered today, physically distant, pretty much everyone here with masks on. Thank you so much, and thank you for all of you out there in the general public who are taking this emergency situation, this crisis seriously, who are listening to and adhering to the warnings of the CDC, of our governor, who's making courageous decisions to keep us all safe. The quicker we take these steps, the quicker we all adhere to these steps, the faster we will all be through this. We are gathered here today to talk about something called the CARES Act. The CARES Act is a piece of federal legislation signed into law on March 27th. One of the things the CARES Act did is it allocated resources to states and local governments with populations over 500,000 to make sure that we have the resources that we need to address the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, we are here to announce the deployment, preliminary deployment of some of those resources, and also talk a little bit about transparency and compliance so that you, as a citizen, can understand where your money, the people's money, is going. So let me start by saying that we are restricted by federal law on the expenditure of the money, and any expenditure I'm talking about today is subject to those legal restrictions set up in the federal law and in subsequent regulation released last week by the U.S. Department of the Treasury. In addition to that, last week we joined the Delaware COVID-19 Anti-Fraud Coalition, a coalition created very smartly by the Attorney General, Kathy Jennings, and the U.S. Attorney for the state of Delaware, David Weiss. That coalition is setting up rules and guidelines so that we make sure every penny of your money is spent properly. Here in Newcastle County, we plan to go a step further. Within the next few days, you will see caresact.nccde.org go live. That's caresact.nccde.org. Just like we do with all of your money, you will have an opportunity to go online and see where this money is being spent. I also want to tell you, Newcastle County and the state government have committed to collaborate to get these resources quickly to those who need them most, regardless of whether resources are needed by a state, county, municipal, or non-governmental entity or individual. It's really important that we deploy these resources in a fair manner across the state to ensure the most urgent COVID-19 financial, health, and basic security needs are addressed regardless of which jurisdiction an individual happens to sit in. We are cognizant every single day of the fact that unemployment is rising, food insecurity, shelter insecurity, health insecurity, and mental health and substance use concerns are worse today, much worse today, than they were weeks and months ago. And we will do everything we can to get resources to where they can be used most. We've set up 3 principles to guide our planning, and I wanted to announce those principles today. We are going to set up committees of citizens across our county to look at how we can most effectively put these resources to work. The first priority is eliminating the virus from our communities and mitigating the risk of a second wave, including enhancing our ability to respond to another crisis. So eliminating the virus, looking at how do we get masks on the face of everyone? How do we get testing out there more widely available in collaboration with the Division of Public Health, the Governor's Office, and DEMA, the Delaware Office of Emergency Management? So the first is eliminate the virus from our communities. The second is assisting the most vulnerable among us. As we all know, there are vulnerable populations in the before Corona world, and for many of those individuals, life has become even harder and more vulnerable and a little bit scary based on the phone calls I'm receiving in the current world. We need to make sure, just as so many of you are out there volunteering your time and efforts to make sure vulnerable are protected and feel protected, we got to make sure these CARES Act resources get to those who need it most. And third, we need to put our county back to work. Once we get to a later phase of the crisis, we're going to make sure resources are deployed so that jobs are created. And once we're able to more freely go outside, there will be employment opportunities. I want to say that we're also announcing today that we have deployed resources. We've already started expending resources to improve and increase testing. Starting this week, I believe we're going to be the first jurisdiction in the country, certainly one of the first jurisdictions of the country, that is testing every single paramedic, regardless of symptoms. Every single paramedic on a voluntary basis will be able to get a virus test, will be able to get an antibody test. Like the governor, if you ask me, is that enough? No, it's not enough. I think we're in agreement that we need to get more testing out there, and we're working hard every day to expand that so it's not just our paramedics who get that testing, but it is very important that those first responders, those heroes who are out there responding to 911 calls, responding to coronavirus calls, you have confidence, and the paramedics and their families have confidence that they're coming to you without any virus in their body, without any contagion. In addition, we're announcing today a $5 million initial allocation to support municipalities in New Castle County. Using these resources, these CARES Act resources, New Castle County will reimburse municipalities for their non-budgeted COVID-19 expenses. By federal law, if something was previously budgeted, this money cannot be used for that expense. Funding will be available proportionate to population and will adjust as needs evolve in the coming weeks and months. We will share the process to request this funding with all the municipalities, including the CARES Act guidance from the Department of Treasury on allowable expenses. The primary reason we're getting out and announcing this today is we want municipal leaders to know if they see emergencies in their municipality, in their city or town, if there are emergency expenditures they need to make, resources are there to reimburse them. Related to that, we're also announcing today a $1 million allocation to support volunteer fire companies and the basic life support service that they provide. Our county will reimburse volunteer fire companies for non-budgeted COVID-19 expenses. The process and guidance will be similar to the process for municipalities, and like with the municipal funds, it will be distributed proportionately across the various fire companies. Third, today we're announcing $10,000 of heroes pay to first responders. Our first responders are out there every single day protecting us. We need to make sure they know that they are protected. They are, so many of them, taking extraordinary risks today. So we wanted to start by making sure that they know how much we as a community appreciate and support them during this time, and make sure that they recognize that. This heroes pay will be recognized as hazard pay to first responders. So it's only to first responders who are actually putting themselves in harm's way. It includes all first responders at county and municipal governments, subject to possibly some changes and some it's got to go through legal review. And also there are some payment arrangements that various governments have. We want to make sure that everyone is treated fairly. And it also will go to full-time fire company first responders who, again, are on the front lines putting themselves in harm's way, who are working during this time of crisis. The allocation process for all of these resources, as well as all the announcements being made today, are subject to further legal review to make sure there's 100% compliance with federal law and federal regulation, as well as the review of the Delaware COVID-19 Anti-Fraud Coalition that I mentioned earlier, formed by the Attorney General and the U.S. Attorney for the state of Delaware. That's all I have today, so thank you very much for being here, and I'm happy to take any questions. No questions? Did I miss anything? Will, you want to add anything? Vanessa? Mike? All right. Thank you very much.